Okay, I've been waiting for this day to arrive, and that's for my products to arrive, my order to arrive here, and what I bought was a nice amount of reinkers, okay? Now, I'm guessing I do not have as many pads as... If you're watching this video, you're a crafter, and you probably have more ink pads than I do, you know? If you've watched my videos, you'll know that I have a lot of Marvy ink pads, and I have reinkers on them, and those things will last me a really long time. However, if I went to a store and I saw all these different types of ink pads and reinkers and whatnot, I would probably be inclined to you know, buy a fair amount of them. Okay, now, I use my reinkers for a lot of different, or my inks in general, for a lot of different dye-based ink applications, okay? There's not a lot of colors that I stamp my main imagery in. You know, most of them run black ink, and the rest of them are, you know, it would be some kind of dark version of something. If I'm going with you know, a winter blue scene or something like that, you know, I might, you know, stamp out some of my objects in one of those blues out of the blue color scheme that I'm using to represent things that are farther off in the distance, and I have videos on that if you're curious about that. But so, what I'm getting at is, I've recommended to some people, and I'm doing that right now for myself, is if you're not going to be stamping out some images in certain colors of an ink that you're buying, you could, if you're just going to use it for that color, a specific color for an ink application, you could just go with the reinker fluid and put that reinker fluid on, you know, a tray such as this, and if you're doing whatever color ink you're doing, you know, these are brushes or whatever, you can just dip into these and apply it that way. Palette, I couldn't think of the name of that. I said dish, but anyways, okay, so I bought some Memento inkers, 6 in all, and how many? There's 7 distress inks right here, okay? Now, okay, this, I can't even remember what I bought, but this one is the antique linen here. It looks like I went with a lot of different ones. I didn't buy a lot of reinkers for my existing pads. Now, this one right here, the Summer Sky and London Fog are 2 colors that I use quite a bit. And I do have the pads for them. I don't think going with pads is a bad idea, but, you know, if it's between going with a pad and reinker, or just going with, you know, 2 reinkers instead, because, I don't know, the reinkers are usually the same price as the pads from what I found in most lines. I just assume get more, you know, different colors to use, so I bought a lot of colors here. I wasn't aware that there were so many different blue tones in, say, distress inks. For all I know, they've been out there for 10 years, but I bought a nice range of them, so instead of buying a pad for, let's say, Mermaid Lagoon, I just bought the reinker, and instead of buying the pad that goes along with it, like I said, I just assume buy another reinker and have more colors to choose from if we're talking about, you know, having a set amount that I was willing to spend, and I don't know. I mean, I could have bought more of these, but I just wanted to experiment around with some and really kind of extend my range of blues. No, I tend to not... If there's some colors that are really close to another color that I already have, and especially another value that I already have, I usually don't buy it, you know, if it comes out in a new line of inks, just simply because I don't feel I need it. Okay, this one has a dropper. I've never even used a distress reinking fluid. So, I don't know. I guess it's kind of interesting. I'm usually used to a squeeze bottle, you know. Okay, I use a lot of these lighter colors here, like this antique linen, and this pad here was really dry, so I'm going to reink it quite a bit. I usually like to get it from side to side, all over there. I don't know, I really like the feel of this bottle. It's a glass bottle, too. It kind of goes along with the spirit of distress, huh? That kind of aged feeling to those inks there. But, okay, I thought I bought more of some of my other pads. I probably need to order a couple more of these, because I do want to... I wouldn't mind re-inking some of these other colors here that are really low. I think the old paper here is really kind of dry. Okay, now the Memento, let's see, the Summer Sky I use all the time. Now, I mean, pads are very convenient in terms of getting the ink out of them. I don't have to kind of dip in here and, you know, dab in there. Not that that takes a lot of time or anything like that, but... Alright, now this one's another one that I use quite a bit of, and my lighter tones tend to get the most amount of coverage out of all the colors I'm using, so I really ink up my lighter tones really strongly. With my darker colors, dark greens, the darker values of any given hue, I usually don't ink them up quite as much because I don't use them as much. Like something like this, you know, I use like the lighter greens all throughout this scene here, but the darker greens are kind of more perimeter oriented, and when I'm applying those colors, I'm often doing it over the top of my lighter colors. So not as much ink from those darker colors apply. So I don't want those pads to be super juicy because it would just be a waste of ink. London Fog is another one of those very light values. Okay, and this one I know was really quite dry. Alright, now one of the other benefits to getting reinkers, if it's a choice between getting two reinkers or the reinker and a pad, let's say, you know, you're on a budget or something like that, I tend to think that a reinker bottle like this holds a lot more ink than the pad, you know. Although these pads hold a lot of ink too. When you buy pads, you know, it might take you a long time to use it up. It might take years, okay? But these reinkers, let's say if I was to get a blank pad of this, I would probably use a third of the bottle or something like that in that initial inking. Okay, that's not the way these are sold. They're already sold, you know, pre-inked. But just say, for example, I think a third of the bottle would probably fill up this ink pad, and then you'd have 2/3 of the bottle left. That being said, I think these, you know, when you're getting, when we're talking about value, you know, the reinkers are a pretty good way to go. And, you know, you'll have, you know, maybe 3 times as much ink in a reinker. And again, that's, you know, for stamps that you're not really, stamp pads that you're not really into, or colors that you're not using to get an impression out of. Okay, in which you would need a pad. You can't, you know, ink up a stamp, you know, just with the reinker fluid and dipping into it or something like that. Okay, let's open up some of these. Ground espresso. Okay, I'm going to pause this video. You don't want to see me just kind of opening up every one of these. These distress inks have this kind of vacuum seal around it. Okay, I'm going to remove all this and we'll test out some of these colors. Okay, we have all of our bottles opened up here. And I tell you, these bottles are kind of cool. I gotta give props to Ranger and Tim Holtz if putting them in these bottles was, you know, by design, you know, for the kind of the theme of the entire line of inks, because these bottles are going to be more expensive with this dropper in here than your typical, you know, kind of reinker bottle. This is Ranger 2, but that's, I don't know, I guess that's what I expected, you know. They're typical, you know, these little plastic bottles with a little squeeze top. So these are pretty cool like that. I really like that type of little detail, you know. And I don't know, it doesn't seem to be any more expensive than your, you know, any other reinker. Okay, so let's move on to it. I've been really curious about this tumbled glass color here. So let's see how that goes, okay? I'm not even sure how much to kind of dab out there, because I've usually used like my first color as a reinker fluid, not the entire range. Okay, so this is broken china. I'm gonna have to keep this organized so I remember which one's which. I'll just kind of put them in kind of in line for what value I think they are. Value meaning, you know, the relative light and darkness of a color within that given hue. And this one is Blueprint Sketch. Doesn't that look like a cool blue? See, I don't have that blue, if that's kind of what it looks like, you know, in terms of that indexing. I found that the indexing on things like, you know, these tops here, yeah, they're pretty good. They're not too bad, you know, for having gone through that entire printing process and whatnot, you know, to achieve that, you know, index color. I find they do a pretty good job, which isn't easy with printers at times, you know, because of you know, the whoever's running the presses and whatnot. Okay, this one's okay. I don't need the antique linen. I already know what that looks like. Okay, this one is Ground Espresso, kind of a cool name too, right? All right, now I'm going to have to change my applicators here, you know, to take a look. Now, I'm not going to be doing this every time I'm kind of using these inks right here. You know, I'll just kind of squeeze them out, and it'll be one of those things where it's just kind of uncertain as to what color that's going to look like. Okay, this is the tumbled glass right here. All right. What I'm looking for is, you know, for a couple things. I already know the kind of the viscosity of these inks right here because I've been using these pads. So I know that they're very kind of slippery and thick, which is good because I can really manipulate them and, you know, spread them out like this. All right, this is a glossy cardstock. This one's actually from a client of mine in Australia. She would bring me some of this. It was called Pace Setter, and it was super, super glossy. It was almost too glossy. Okay, so I'm looking at this right here. All right, now that's kind of a darker swatch, right? Because there's a lot of it laid down, okay? So I want to see how dark that given hue can get by using it in its full saturation, but kind of when you kind of move it around like that a little bit, that's kind of more in the spirit of what it'll look like. You know, and that you can get it to build up like that. Now that's really dark right there because that's kind of built up on the surface and it's kind of puddled up in little beads of ink. But let's take a look and see how it looks kind of when we blend it in a little bit. Okay, so that's a tumbled glass. And now see, that's going to be a really fantastic first color blue. You know, if you're looking for a foundation coat of blue, that one's a pretty good one to go with. It's not super bright though. It's a little bit dull. Okay, but that's not bad. It's just, you know, it's supposed to be kind of a more aged looking blue. It's not going to be like super bright. All right. But it's a good one to start off with, you know, if you're looking for a good blue to, and I speculated that it probably was based on, you know, how these other distress ink values look when applied to something. All right, so now this one is just getting a little bit dull here. You know, what I need to do is I need to spray it, but let me just lay some of this down right here. And yeah, you can just go right over the tops of, I don't know, I'm not going to go over the top of that pigment ink too much, which I've stamped out those trees in, but I just kind of see that. See, when you kind of go over, you know, a previously laid down color, even if it gets a little dull, you can put another lighter color right over the top of it, and it kind of regains its vibrancy. This one will come back though with a spray coat. Okay, so that was the tumbled glass. Let's take a look at the broken china here. I did switch to my other tip right here. Ooh, that is really, really darker than I thought, but that's good. This will be this broken china, to me, looks a little bit turquoise-ish. It's kind of moving into, it has a little bit of yellow, you know, so it has that kind of that blue. It's like the beginning of like a blue-green, okay? It kind of reads as blue, but I think it just has a touch of warmth in it, like you know, that kind of, that turquoise spectrum right there. I don't know why I did something this large here, but I should write on here tumbled glass, broken china. Let's stay with the broken china looks like over the top of the broken tumbled glass. Gosh, broken china, tumbled glass. These names confuse me. It's not just like light blue, medium blue, dark blue, right? That wouldn't sell anyway, so that's not a good marketing name. You know, light blue, medium blue. Okay. All right, Mermaid Lagoon. This is one of those tips that I caught, you know, from a color box that came through. They kind of melted that top there, so of course we don't send those out like that. I wish they would have caught it, though, not me. Okay, so Mermaid Lagoon. Let's take a look at this one. Ooh, boy, that is a beautiful color. Now, see, I don't have that color right here in Marvy or Memento. I don't know the pads that I have. All right, so this one's going to get a lot of use, I can tell already. Yeah, I can tell instantly. I can never have enough blue inks, really. You know, I don't want, like I said before, I don't want them the same, you know, something I already have, but and by the way, I'm not trying to make a scene here. I'm just testing out the color right here. Okay. All right, that's a beauty. Mermaid Lagoon. Broken china, tumbled glass, definitely really good choices for. I would use more of the tumbled glass than the broken china for my foundation coat, but you could. Even this Mermaid Lagoon, if you wanted to, you can just go in straight with a Mermaid Lagoon. It's not going to look as kind of intense, you know, without those kind of, you know, under base layer colors. Okay, now that's laid down right there. Boy, when you start using a lot of like Distress or Memento inks kind of layered on top of one another like this, it really starts to build up because they're all very, you know, the entire line is a very thick ink, so see like that? I can just go right through that, and you can see how that ink sits on the surface of this paper because it's, again, the viscosity of the ink. So, you know, a lot of people ask me about certain techniques and whatnot. Paper and media. Your inks are going to be a little bit different depending on what surface you're laying them on. Okay, what brand of paper and whatnot. It's going to change, you know, and there's so many different lines of inks out there. Sometimes within a given color, okay, now I don't even know what this one is. Was this one the blueprint? Did I just use that? No, I think this is blueprint. That definitely looks like a blueprint color. Alright, I love this ink too. It has a slight red in it, okay, meaning this is definitely more in kind of the spirit of, I mean, it looks exactly like blueprint ink. So for me, having a little bit of printing experience like in high school and whatnot, that really looks like that ink that we used on our letter typesetting assignments right there. Okay, I want it darker though, you know, but it'll build up. You know, I just have to kind of stick with it, but that's a really nice color. Look at that over that top. See, it just kind of tinted it right there into that range. It looks almost violet, doesn't it? But done, you know, dark, like this, okay? That's going to give me a really fantastic hue. Okay, now let's see. This one is called Dusty Concord. Does that mean Concord grapes? Sounds like it, huh? Let's give it a try here. Oops, I'm not sure if I had ink on this. Ow, that... Darn it. I already had green on this one. This is the one I used to do my Aurora Borealis scenes. I just cleaned off all my brushes too. Alright, let's go with it. Let's go a little bit with this one again. I needed more kind of violet tones that weren't... Sometimes I like Marvy a lot for a lot of different colors, but sometimes the intensity of all of them are so bright and vivid, you know, which is good, but I don't want that over everything. I want kind of a more mellow, kind of aged looking tone. Alright, that's a beauty too. That's a really nice violet right there. See, when you do this, see, with some papers, see how thick this ink is? It's kind of separating, right? You can see that real streaky in there, okay? So you just kind of... Now see, this is where those streaks wouldn't show as much if I'm laying them over the top of other tones. That's why you kind of build things up, potentially. Okay, alright. See, it looks different here than it does there, right? So that's where you get the kind of that base layer coating effect coming into play. Alright, but this, I mean, this really mixes it too. Maybe I shouldn't be doing it on this paste setter. This paste setter is so super glossy and sealed off. It's not great for, you know, going with multiple layers, especially without letting them dry. Okay, so that is a really good color too. I can see this would be a perfect color for, you know, some sky scenes like that dusk, you know, post-sunset, or around sunset too. You can have that color on the sides or something of that nature. And, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've been looking for that color all my life, but that's a really great color. So, Dusty Concord, I guess that means the grape. I don't know. Is that... One time I was sitting in our booth when... I didn't used to demonstrate it when I was at a Stamp of the Hand until I came up with the nature designs, and one of our demonstrators said, "Kevin, you do this, man. I don't know how to use those stamps right there." You know, because I'd just come out with this interlocking system, and those stamps, that type of system hadn't been out at the time. You know, the modular type of system. So he said, "Okay, well, why don't you do it the way you conceived it?" So, but anyways, what I'm getting, you know, I didn't even know the names of a lot of different colors, and I saw that salvia. I just took a glance at salvia blue, and I thought it said saliva blue. And our demonstrator's laughing at me the rest of the day. Okay. Alright, now this is ground espresso. Alright, now that is fantastic. I love every, I don't know, it shouldn't come as a surprise, but I love every ink color, it seems. That brown right there is going to be fantastic for grasses, dirt roads, really earthy things, tree trunks. And look at how beautiful that is. Huh. Now see, that's a little bit of a different hue than, say, dark brown, you know, from Marvy, okay? Even though they are very close in terms of their value and hue, okay? But let's take a look at this. I'll just use the same thing, so there's going to be a little bit of espresso and dark brown in this one, but let's see if you can tell the difference, okay? See that right there? It's a little bit different, right? I'll just kind of add it in here into the mix, okay? So I'll kind of blot it. It has a different viscosity too. You know, the Marvy inks are thinner, so... But I think that, you know, distress inks, I mean, if you put an antique linen underneath this too, that would be fantastic. But let's do this. Let's go a little bit of brown there. Look how rich this is right here. Okay, now I mentioned it. Let's try it. Let's use a little bit of that antique linen. I'm running out of clean applicators here. Yeah. Alright, I shouldn't be so lazy. I'll go and clean my applicators again after this video. I usually clean them about once every 2 months. This time I'm going to be cleaning them, you know, after, you know, I don't know, 5 days or something like that. Okay, now this is the antique linen, okay? Antique linen is kind of in the spirit of brown, right? It's a lighter tone of brown, beigeish, a little bit warmer. Not really beige, but I don't know, kind of in that spirit, though, of that. In terms of the value of it. Okay, so see this right here? Let me just put it under some of it right here. And let's take a look, okay? I just used the reinker. I could have put, you know, the... Now this is really built up. I shouldn't have used the paste setter, because it's really kind of not absorbing very quickly. But I don't know if you can tell. I can tell here, but see, can you tell here it's a little bit warmer? See right here, I mean, I like that color, but see that richness right in here? That's the antique linen underneath the ground espresso. It doesn't have to be antique linen. I mean, it could have been any one. Old paper would be fine. I don't know. Let's even try like a peeled paint or something like that. Okay, that's a green in here. Okay, but look how beautiful that is right here, you know. It needs a little bit more. I'm kind of removing ink here a little bit too, because it's kind of really just sitting on the surface of the paper. But anyways, we see these different tones here, and I don't know, there's a lot of winners in here in terms of the different values of things, the different, you know, the twists on the hue, you know. I mean, I don't know how many blues I have. Like I said, I can never have too many. And you can mix and match things too to achieve different tones. But, you know, I mean, that does have a limit of, I don't know, thousands of variations, you know, or something. I don't know. I mean, if you add like a couple more, then maybe you have a million variations that you can get, you know, come with. Okay, let's do a couple quick ones right here. Let's see, this is a Paris Dusk. Let's see what that one looks like. This is Mementos. Mementos, any Memento inks are, you know, really great for your foundation inks too. They're so light in value. Okay, let's see here. I already forgot. Paris Dusk. I don't know. That sounds like a great color to me. Oh, that is interesting. Look at that. Okay, so this is the difference between, like, say, a Memento and Ranger. Look at that. Over the top of this paper right here. I don't think I had anything on it, but look at that separation that's taking place right there. Because it's so thick, but look at that. Look at that color. Isn't that fantastic? It reminds me of the Prussian blue from Marvy. But look at that separation that's taking place. No, you know, I can just go in here and, you know, that'll rub out, but we could use some of that. That looks like that salt watercolor technique that you do to get that kind of separation. Now, I don't know if I can control that, but look at that, those different textures in there. If you did something like that in the sky, that alone would look kind of cool. All right, let's see something. I don't know if it'll do it on the, like, say, chrome coat. All right, we need to try that here. Here's a piece of, not chrome coat, but this one is King James. Okay, let's see what we have here. So let's go with that Paris Dusk again. Oh, that is interesting. Is that supposed to be happening? Is that a trait with this color? Because it's happening on this paper too. So I don't know. Maybe on any surface it does. I don't know. It'd be kind of strange that it has some kind of like star effect, you know, kind of built in. But I don't know. On glossy paper. So you have to kind of lay it down in a kind of a slathering for it to kind of create that separation there. Maybe I need to go a little bit faster. And with a kind of a thicker slathering, okay? So here we go. Ooh, my God. I just don't know if I could control it. Not that I need to have control, but, you know, if we're talking about that kind of texture in there, you kind of want it where you want it to go in a way. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? You can kind of put it in some areas if you want to and kind of do it. Now, I'm no kind of brush calligrapher or something like that, but I don't know. I think with a little bit of practice and just maybe laying it down with a paintbrush would be even better. I'm just kind of, I'm hand holding this little tiny piece like this and trying it like that. I think if you kind of laid that down, but look at that separation in there. Okay, so here's my thoughts. You lay this down and let it dry, and then you go back in with a really bright blue, like say something like this one, whichever that one was. I think that was the Mermaid Lagoon. And then you lay that down over the top of that. Wouldn't that be a fantastic? And then that'll have that kind of that watercolor, separation technique that people love to do. Okay, so anyways, I'm just playing around with those. Cantaloupe is an orange. Lulu lavender. Wouldn't that be cool? Okay, so let's see. Let's try that. Let's try with just one more of the Memento reinkers here, just for the sake of seeing if all of these do that. I don't know if they all would. It would seem strange, but all right. Now that's Lulu. Let me see if okay, I have a clean one right here. So Lulu lavender. All right, yeah. Interesting. They do that. Look at that separation right there. So something that you can do with your Memento reinkers, I guess. You can get that kind of effect. It's kind of interesting, though. They've always been very thick inks in viscosity. That's why I always think you can just go straight in with one of those colors. You don't even need a foundation color. I can go in straight with black. But if you do certain types of looks with it, you can really control or apply, maybe not have so much control over some types of interesting textures like that without having to do anything extra in terms of like a subtractive process or spraying it with water. Okay, so anyways, a lot of different inks and reinker fluids. I'm going to have a lot of fun with them. And I can see using a lot of these. I love that blueprint and Mermaid Lagoon, and I don't know, I love all those different colors in there. I think they'll make a fine addition to my existing pads and color schemes. Thanks for watching.